Before you decide this person was just another passing chapter, pause for a moment and really listen, because what if the connection you keep trying to dismiss was never ordinary to begin with? What if the reason you still think about them is not weakness, not fantasy, not some desperate need to hold on, but something much deeper that your heart recognized before your mind could explain it? Some people enter your life and everything looks normal on the outside, yet inside, something shifts so quietly and so permanently that you are never fully the same again. You try to move on, you try to be rational, you tell yourself enough time has passed, but still, their energy lingers in your thoughts. Their absence speaks louder than other people's presence. And some part of you keeps whispering that the story is not as finished as it seems. Stay with me, because this is where most people walk away too soon. They confuse silence with ending. They confuse distance with loss. They confuse fear with lack of feeling. But not every powerful connection comes wrapped in easy timing and clear answers. Some of them arrive to wake you up first, to shake something loose inside you, and only then to reveal what they truly mean. And if this message found you at exactly this moment, maybe there is a reason for that. Maybe what you feel is not something to run from, but something to finally understand. There are certain moments in life when someone enters your world and the word coincidence starts to lose its meaning. You can look back over every detail, every message, every delay, every strange turn in the path, and still feel that logic alone cannot explain why this person touched you so deeply. They did not simply appear. They arrived with weight, with purpose, with a strange sense of familiarity that made the connection feel older than the moment you met. And when they came into your life, something shifted inside you in a way that was quiet but lasting. It did not have to be dramatic to be life-changing. Sometimes the biggest turning points arrive without noise. Even now, as you try to tell yourself it is over, you still feel that pull. Not panic, not obsession, just a deep inner knowing that keeps drawing your attention back to them, that matters, because false things fade when time tests them, illusions become weaker, fantasies lose their grip, but some connections do the opposite. They stay. They remain present through distance, through silence, through months of trying to make sense of what your heart already knows. That is why you feel torn. One part of you wants to let go and protect your peace. Another part of you feels that walking away too fast would be leaving behind something real. And that tension is not random. It is the sign of a connection that touched more than your emotions. It touched your inner life. You may have reached a point where you feel split in two. One side of you wants to trust what you felt from the start. The other side doubts it because the outer world has not given you the proof you hoped for. Silence has a way of feeding doubt. Distance can make even a strong heart question itself. You may have asked yourself if you imagined the whole thing, if you read too much into their words, their eyes, the energy between you, the way the connection seemed to carry meaning from the first moment. But here is the truth. If it were only imagination, it would have faded by now. If it were only a passing emotional high, time would have broken it down. But instead, it stayed alive beneath the surface. Quiet, steady, unfinished. And that is because this person matters, not in the shallow way the ego wants to possess something, but in the deeper way the soul recognizes a meeting that brings growth, truth, and change. This is not the kind of feeling that demands loudly. It moves differently. It sits in still moments. It rises when the world gets quiet. It returns in soft waves when you are no longer trying to force anything. And that is why it can be so hard to explain to other people. What you feel may not make perfect sense to anyone standing outside the experience. But some things are known inwardly before they are proven outwardly. Keep listening, because this part changes everything. Connections that truly change us are never shallow. They do not simply give us butterflies and disappear. They rearrange something inside us. They open inner doors that cannot be closed again. And even through silence, even through physical distance, even through all the reasons things seem uncertain, the bond can remain alive in ways that are hard to describe. Some people feel deeply while appearing calm. Some people care powerfully while acting distant. Silence does not always mean there is nothing there. Sometimes it means the feeling is so large they do not know how to carry it without becoming afraid of their own vulnerability. Their distance is not always a lack of care. Often it is fear. Fear of being seen too clearly, fear of losing control, fear of feeling something so real that it changes the life they had carefully built around emotional safety. This is where many strong connections begin to fracture. One person wakes up to the truth of the bond faster than the other is ready to face it. One heart becomes honest sooner. The other pulls back because the mirror being held up is too revealing. And you may have become that mirror for them. You reached something inside them that had been sleeping for a long time. You stirred emotion they had learned to silence. You reminded them of who they could be if they stopped hiding. That kind of impact does not disappear just because someone grows quiet. It stays. It works in the background. It waits. If this connection were truly finished, it would have ended cleanly. That is something many people do not want to admit. Real endings have a different energy. They close, they settle, they stop calling your attention back in quiet ways. But unresolved bonds move differently. They show up in little signs, in sudden memories, in dreams that feel too vivid to ignore, in moments when their name, their voice, their energy seems to brush against your day for no clear reason. These are not always meant to keep you stuck. Sometimes they are there to remind you that life is still moving beneath the surface, even when nothing outward is happening yet. There is a difference between trying to force a door open and knowing that a door is not permanently closed. That difference matters. Hope is not always delusion. Sometimes it is intuition in a calmer form. Sometimes it is the quiet voice within you saying, "Not yet, not like this, not in the unfinished way your fear keeps trying to accept." And right now, something may already be softening behind the scenes. The wall that once looked solid may be weakening under the pressure of feeling that refuses to disappear. Whether they say it or not, the thought of losing you completely may now feel heavier than the fear that made them step back in the first place. That shift is important. Don't miss this part, because what feels still on the surface can be changing deeply underneath. Patience becomes powerful when it is rooted in self-respect instead of desperation. That is the lesson this connection may be trying to teach you now. Not how to wait in pain, but how to stand in truth without betraying yourself. As these words settle into you, notice what feels calm rather than frantic. Truth rarely arrives screaming. It lands quietly and brings a strange sense of steadiness. If your heart feels softer instead of more anxious, that matters. It may be your inner confirmation that what is happening is not simple loss, but transformation. The connection is not necessarily broken. It may be changing shape while both of you are being changed by it. What you are living through is not just waiting for someone else to return. It is also becoming the version of yourself that no longer accepts half-love, mixed signals, or shallow bonds that never really touch the soul. Since this person entered your life, you may have noticed that your standards changed. Your emotional awareness became deeper. You can no longer pretend that surface-level attention is enough. You know what genuine connection feels like now, and because of that, you cannot go back to sleep emotionally. Sometimes a person does not arrive to stay immediately. Sometimes they arrive to wake you up first, to show you what is possible, to reveal what has been missing in your life, and to teach you the difference between comfort and real depth. Once that awakening happens, everything changes. That is why letting go can feel so difficult. You are not only holding on to a person, you are also holding on to the truth that was born inside you through knowing them. You discovered how deeply you can feel. You discovered how honest your heart can be. You discovered that you are capable of being fully emotionally present, and once that is known, it cannot be unknown. Deep bonds rarely move in straight lines. They circle back. They revisit the same emotional themes, but each time with more depth, more truth, and more demand for courage. They ask both people to become more honest than they were before. What makes this hard is not lack of feeling. It is difference in timing, difference in readiness. You may be ready to open while they are still working through resistance, fear, or old emotional habits. But unresolved connections do not simply vanish. They wait. They stay hidden until the noise of life gets quieter and the soul can no longer avoid what it knows. Late at night, early in the morning, in stillness, in memory, you may have become the quiet standard they compare everything else to, even if they never say it aloud. That is why signs can keep appearing, not always to make you chase, sometimes to help you remain steady and not betray what you know just because the process is taking longer than your fear can tolerate. And this next part is important because everything begins to shift when your energy changes. There is a major difference between attachment and alignment, and learning that difference can change the entire story. Attachment says, I need this person to be okay. Alignment says, I am already okay, and what is meant for me will meet me where I stand. Attachment clings, panics, and tries to control the outcome. Alignment becomes still. It does not stop caring, but it stops begging life for answers before the timing is right. When you stop chasing clarity and begin living from it, the whole connection starts to transform. The pressure leaves. The bond is no longer fed by fear, but by grounded presence. And strangely, that is often when the other person begins to feel the truth more strongly. They sense that you are pulling your energy back home into yourself. They notice that you are no longer waiting in the same anxious way, and that change makes the connection feel more real, not less. Because now it cannot survive on fantasy. It has to be chosen. It has to rise. It has to become honest. This is where fear slowly starts losing its grip. The reality of losing you becomes clearer. Their heart begins to speak louder than the old defense patterns that once controlled everything. And whether they admit it or not, they start standing at the edge of a choice. To remain protected and lose something rare, or to risk vulnerability and finally meet what has been real all along. Energy responds to truth. And when one person grows, the entire dynamic must answer that growth in some way. There comes a point when longing begins to soften into understanding. That shift is huge. It is the moment when you stop asking why this is happening to you and begin sensing that it may be happening for you. That does not erase the pain instantly, but it changes your relationship to it. Pain starts turning into wisdom. Confusion starts becoming clarity. The connection begins revealing not just what you feel for them, but what you are meant to learn about yourself. Maybe this bond came to strip away what was false in your life. Maybe it came to show you the difference between intensity and true intimacy. Maybe it came to teach you the difference between holding on from fear and staying open from love. As that understanding deepens, the suffering starts losing some of its power. You still think of them, but the thoughts feel quieter now. Cleaner, less frantic, more honest. And when one person in a deep connection reaches that level of inner balance, the bond itself starts responding. Energy seeks balance. When you stop chasing, something else begins to move. They may feel your presence differently now, not as pressure, not as a demand, but as something steady and real. That can unsettle them more than pursuit ever did. Because now silence carries a new meaning. It is no longer easy for them to call it distance and hide behind it. Now silence becomes a mirror. Now they have to face themselves. They have to look at the emotional walls, the need for control, the old patterns that once kept them safe, but now only keep them alone. Moving forward always asks for risk. That is true for both of you. To open the heart means risking vulnerability. To stay closed means risking regret. And that is the real crossroad many people reach when a powerful bond asks them to grow. The outcome does not depend on how tightly you hold on. It depends on how deeply you honor yourself while life reveals what is true. The more you stay aligned with your own worth, the clearer the path becomes. Whether this leads to reunion or release, it no longer has the power to destroy you because you are becoming stronger than the old fear that once ruled your heart. There is still unfinished meaning here. You can feel it. Words not spoken. Feelings not fully expressed. Truth waiting for courage. Fear stands in front of both people in different ways. Your task may be to trust what you know without losing your center. Their task may be to open their heart instead of hiding behind old defenses. Both tasks are part of the same deeper movement, and maybe you have already noticed something important. The idea of reunion no longer feels frantic. It feels quieter now, more serious, more grounded. You do not want fantasy anymore. You do not want confusion dressed up as destiny. You want clarity. You want presence. You want love that can live in the open and not only survive in the shadows of silence. That inner standard matters because it calls the other person forward, and if they cannot meet it, then truth becomes clear in another way. Real soul-level bonds are not meant to trap you inside endless suffering. They are meant to guide you back to truth. That truth may lead to a real reconnection, or it may lead to a peaceful release built on understanding instead of confusion. But either way, the purpose is your awakening, not your destruction. Communication may open in ways you do not expect. It may happen slowly. It may happen when you are no longer gripping the outcome so hard. It may arrive after both of you have been forced to sit with what this connection truly means. Do not rush these moments in your mind. Do not try to script what life has not spoken yet. Let things unfold naturally. Real reconnection cannot be forced. If fear rises in you, let it be there without letting it take the lead. Fear is often just an old memory trying to protect you from new vulnerability. But you are not the same person you were when this story first began. You do not need to prove your worth anymore. Your growth already proves it. Your calm proves it. Your honesty proves it. Pay attention to your body as well as your thoughts. Less tension, more openness, more breathing room in your chest. These are signs that you are settling into what is real. What comes next is not about clinging to a fantasy. It is about allowing life to reveal whether this connection is rising into truth or dissolving into wisdom. But one thing is clear. It is not finished just because it became quiet. Sometimes the deepest movement happens in silence first. There is a quiet kind of strength that builds when you no longer need outside reassurance to trust what you feel. You stop searching for signs every hour because something inside you has become more settled than before. The connection becomes a mirror, showing you where you are, what you still fear, and who you are becoming. You no longer feel the need to defend your heart to people who do not understand the depth of what you lived. Real love does not need confusion as proof. Your inner steadiness changes the entire field around this bond. When you stop twisting yourself to keep it alive, the connection has to answer honestly. It either rises to meet you or it reveals where it cannot, and both responses are truth. They feel this shift more than you may realize. The space you use to fill with effort is no longer available for them to lean on. Your presence has become cleaner now, less mixed with anxiety, less shaped by fear, and that kind of presence confronts people. It brings unresolved feelings to the surface. It makes them feel the weight of what could be lost. It stirs responsibility. It asks for truth. You chose growth. You chose integrity. And now they are standing near that same choice, whether they admit it or not. You may sense closeness even without words. A sudden warmth, a strange calm, a wave of quiet certainty. This is not always fantasy. Sometimes it is resonance. Distance may delay expression, but it does not always cut the bond. Not if the bond is real, not if both hearts have been changed by it. Anything built before true awareness often falls apart because it was not strong enough to carry real honesty. That may be why things slowed down. That may be why the bond could not move forward the old way. Something stronger is trying to be built now, even if the process feels frustrating. If they return, it should not be in the same vague way. It should be with intention, with accountability, with emotional presence, with the willingness to meet you in the clear space you now stand in. And if they do not, you will still not break the way you once feared, because you have already returned to yourself. You have already remembered your own soul. You have already learned the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between longing and alignment, between temporary intensity and something that can actually hold a life. Whatever comes next will meet you at the level of peace and self-respect you now live from. That is why your work is not to force the outcome. Your work is to remain true, to stay grounded, to keep your heart open without abandoning your standards. Some people are meant for you, but timing, fear, and emotional immaturity can delay what is real. That delay does not always mean denial. Sometimes it means preparation. Sometimes it means both people must grow enough to meet each other in truth rather than in wounded patterns. That is hard to accept when the heart wants immediate answers. But rushed love often collapses. Mature love takes shape slowly and asks for courage from both sides. So if you have been wondering whether you should walk away too soon, hear this carefully. Do not stay where there is no honesty. Do not remain in confusion forever. Do not call pain love just because the feeling is intense. But also, do not betray your inner knowing simply because the outer timeline looks unclear. Some bonds are rare. Some people come into your life carrying a message your soul understands before your mind can explain it. If this person changed you, opened you, deepened you, and made you face truths you could not ignore, then the connection had purpose, whether it ends in reunion or in a deeper return to yourself. What matters now is not fear. It is discernment. It is patience with dignity. It is the courage to let truth unfold without forcing it and without running from it. If they are meant to walk beside you, life will ask them to rise. Life will press them toward honesty. Life will make hiding feel heavier than speaking. And if they do rise, you will know the difference. It will not ask you to shrink. It will not keep you starving for crumbs. It will meet the depth that already lives in you. And if they do not, the connection will still have done its work by revealing your standards, your strength, and your capacity for real love. Either way, you are not where you were before. You are clearer now, stronger now, more awake now. And sometimes that is the first sign that something truly meaningful has touched your life.